We'd like to welcome you to this edition of Syracuse Common Council Study Session. Item number 5 is a public hearing that will take place on Monday. President Hudson has item number 9, and we'll know if there are any Commissioner of Deeds on Monday as well. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Councilor Bay. I have items 10 through 19. Item 10 is with the police department for advertising. Anybody have what this is for? National. I see it says National Law Enforcement Week, but anybody have an update on? Okay. The rest are fires, and Chief, if you just want to be here in case anybody has any questions. They're predominantly just the the ones that pay to get uniforms, the pay Father Dan O'Hara, fire equipment and everything. Nothing large. No questions? Okay, they're all ready.
Thank you. Councilor Rudd.
Thank you. I have item number 20. Is there anybody who would like? Yeah, Dave.
Councilor Dave Delvecchio, Commissioner of Finance. Item 20 is the agreement with Paylock. Paylock is the firm that boots the delinquent parking ticket plate holders for the city. I know, Councilor, you and I discussed bringing them here. If you'd like a committee meeting, we can do that. They're out of town. I just need a few days to make arrangements. The terms and conditions remain the same as the current contract, so nothing changes with the contract.
Are there questions from other councilors regarding the booting service? I don't think there's a need for a committee meeting, but
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 21 is adjusting the parking meter hourly rates from $1.25 to $2. So I would say this is an alternative to increasing property taxes that we chose during the budget process. And just like any property tax increase, this will be a recurring revenue that minimizes the amount that we had to increase property taxes, and that will hopefully minimize our use of fund balance in the future moving forward. I'm not sure if there's somebody who would be, is there an appropriate person from the administration to ask questions of, if there are? Any questions on the council? I'm good with this. This is, I think, a smart way to raise revenue, and it puts us on par with other communities upstate New York for what they charge downtown parking. Okay, 21, we'll say ready. 22 is Dave.
Good afternoon, councilors. I'm Dave Perwick from Information Technology. Item number 22, we're asking for an amendment to a current agreement. We have an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Onondaga, and we've partnered with them on the PeopleSoft implementation. And as a part of that, we rely on them at times for some technical support. They host the application for us. There's no cost to us for that hosting. But when we have questions, we need resources, this vehicle allows us to reimburse them for their hourly rate, basically. So whether they are using a consultant to help us or a county employee, we reimburse them dollar for dollar. We've had this IMA on the books for 3 or 4 years, and we're asking for an extension of it. The total not to exceed dollar amount per each extension is still at $125.
So when we talk about sharing services or buying in bulk with the county, is PeopleSoft one that we're basically already doing that?
Oh yeah,
So this is like the example of where we move to in other.
Jackpot. Jackpot. Yep.
Other questions related to PeopleSoft? 23.
Hello again. Item number 23, we're asking you to allow us to proceed to contract with an organization here in downtown Syracuse called NiserNet. Last summer, we built the beginnings of a fiber optic ring here in downtown Syracuse. And in doing so, we connected City Hall to what you'd call the 2 carrier hotels in downtown Syracuse. The carrier hotels are where the big telecom providers congregate, and those 2 locations are the State Tower building and the atrium. So we have fiber, our fiber that we own, that we paid for, that connects City Hall to both of those locations. The connection between, there's a direct connection between the State Tower and the atrium, and then it goes to City Hall from the State Tower. In the connection between the State Tower and the atrium, there are 48 strands of fiber. Currently, we're not using any of them. NiserNet, who is a resident of the atrium, and that's where our fiber goes there and terminates, has expressed an interest in leasing 6 of the 48 strands of fiber. It's $1,000 a month for 10 years. That would still allow us 32. If somebody else wanted to partner with us, great. If not, we have plenty capacity for our own use. NiserNet's been a long-time resident of downtown Syracuse. They're a very prominent technology company, a company organization, a not-for-profit in mostly the higher ed space. But we're looking forward to some other partnerships with them down the road, separate and distinct from this. But along with this arrangement, they'd have access to these 6 strands of fiber to use at their will for 10 years, $1,000 a month. Questions?
These are hardwired strands that nobody is, so they are it, or we are it, right? It's not.
I mean, if that organization has a need, if this doesn't go forward, they're going to meet that need somewhere else. They're going to go to a private party or whatever they do because their member institutions need access to whatever it is.
What I mean is that it's hardwired, so if they have access to it, it's only them that have access to
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And how many do we need for our own? If
Yeah, I could
10
see.
years ago, you
yeah.
wouldn't have probably thought we'd be where we
Yeah,
are now.
That's
so
right.
How many?
And so so you're asking me to project 10 years. I would think if we kept a dozen for ourselves, we'd have plenty. I mean, on another part of this network that was built last summer, we have another 96 strands, and I think we're using 2, and we have plans to use a 3rd and a 4th. And these little strands of light have tremendous capacity. But just when you build it, it doesn't cost the cost difference to put a little bit in our lot, and isn't that much difference. And it allows us this flexibility to partner and do other things that we couldn't even thought of years ago. Counselor?
My question is, are there any security risks about anyone non-city having access to these, and does it compromise any of our?
No, it doesn't connect to our network. It's a direct connection right from atrium to the State Tower building. What they do on one end of the wire and what they do on the other end of the wire, it's up to them. It doesn't connect to us directly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
24.
Councilors, item 24 relates to a request to enter into an agreement with Pitney Bowes. Pitney Bowes maintains the machine in the Treasury Division. The machine's used to sort stuff, envelopes, variety of documents. Finance utilizes it for the tax billing. We use it for delinquent tax notices, parking ticket notices, and other departments use it, right? Any correspondence that they have mass mailings. The capability, we use it, for example, when we do certified mailing, becomes very critical, and is when we send out seizure notices, items like that, so.
How much does the machine cost normally?
I don't have that information. The lease is $12.89 a month. The lease includes all maintenance. It includes any issues we have with it. I don't know the cost to purchase one of those. I can find out.
I think it'd be worthwhile just to have
Okay. If we
sense
purchase,
of whether we pay, or are you really just paying for the services?
well, that's it. I think if we bought the machine, we would probably need a maintenance agreement also. I will check into that. I'll check in, let you know. Sure.
25.
Good afternoon, councilors. David Clifford, Commissioner of Assessment. These are 3 roll corrections. The first one on Onondaga Avenue, the property was miscoded as a rooming house rather than a 2-family house, which is what we determined it to be. The second one, the house was inadvertently removed from the roll. A house down the street at 557 Bryant was demolished, and somehow this property got removed erroneously. We're correcting that now. And the Butternut Street property is this is the Lombardi Market on Butternut and Catherine Streets. They were being charged for apartments above the market that apparently were uninhabitable, so we're correcting that sewer use charge. Any questions?
What is the Bryan Ave one again? I was,
There's a house there. We removed the house from the roll erroneously
okay,
through a clerical error.
yes, okay.
We're putting it back on.
26.
26 is to do the bound copies of the Common Council meeting minutes. We currently, for many years, have had them on CD-ROM disc, which we have now, and it's what most people access them, but we also have books. So this is specialized printing. The last time we bid this out, this company's the only company that bid for 2 or 3 years in a row, so we negotiated a price which is better since there's no competition.
Any questions?
Yeah, what's the necessity for having hard copies, I guess?
Well, it was an agreement made with the prior administration that elected officials like to have hardbound copies. Certain department heads do, the library does. So we produce a certain number of bound copies in addition to the electronic version.
Is this a practice we're going to continue going forward?
It's up for discussion, I guess.
Okay. I just, if it's, you know, I mean, you can access it online if it's on CD-ROMs. I don't really see the purpose of spending almost
Well, this does
19,000.
also give us the CD-ROMs that we
Okay,
distribute as well,
okay.
part of the cost.
Part
But
of it.
most of it is the book.
Okay.
I would agree with Counselor Carney on that. We now have YouTube, which is visible, you know, at least a ways in the past, and I think if that's up for negotiation in the future, to include them. Great, we have law to clarify that point.
Well, I have the next few items anyhow, so.
Go on.
Joe Barry, First Assistant Corporation Counsel. In reference to the council proceedings book, it's actually mandated by the charter,
Yeah.
so we'd have to make that adjustment if we want to stop producing it, but I know we like to have it in our library.
Dramatically, we have cut it down, correct?
Yes,
I mean,
yeah, we've,
really only producing books where needed. And quite frankly, in the past, there was a resistance to giving up the books. I mean, there wasn't resistance, you know, people didn't want the books given up.
I mean, I guess I get the purpose for why we did it in the 90s and maybe early 2000s. You know, when I was trying to put my first budget together, it was nice that I could, you know, go back and look at old books, but I don't really see a purpose going forward. I mean, I don't know, it just seems like a common sense thing. If we have to amend the charter, I mean, we've proven this year that we're not afraid to amend the charter, so.
that's
Why
kind of
not
a
do
nice
something to
historical
save it?
record.
Yeah.
For at least to have 1 or 2 copies. You know,
Yeah,
in case the computer system ever goes down.
Couple hard copies, but, you know, I don't know who's using these.
The law department uses them.
Okay. Well, then the law department can have one.
The cost has gone down tremendously, though. If I went back
I'm
a few
sure
years.
it's probably not as mass produced and needed to be passed out like in years past, somebody who practices municipal law, but it seems, sort of like overkill.
You get your picture in there for posterity.
That's one of the reasons the councils want the
He's saying save the trees.
If people want to see me, they can come to the store.
Save the trees.
Um,
Okay.
27.
Yeah, so the next three items, 27, 28, and 29, are annual waivers for the law department for our process server and court reporting services. 27 is actually an amendment for the current year's budget. We needed additional funds in the amount of $3,000 to finish up the year. Then 28 and 29 will be our waivers for the coming fiscal year.
Where do you get the $3,000 from?
I know it's, there's an account that we had funds available, and it's referenced in the short title.
Do we put this out for like an RFP? How do we determine which investigators we're going to use? I mean, is it just companies that we've used for years that sort of are?
Yeah, so there's a very limited pool of companies because for code enforcement purposes and parking judgments, some of these services have to be served out of state. So we do look at the cost, and however, we have not done a formal RFP. It's technically not required because we're not committing contractually to these firms, $8,000 amount. It's case by case, so we only authorize it as needed.
Yeah.
So they have no guaranteed amount of work. is what I'm
No,
trying to
I
say.
understand. It's just sort of a pot of money that we have ready in case we have a case that requires
Correct.
someone being served. But I just be curious, do we know rate-wise what they compare to other individuals? Or is it that a lot of the matters that we're using them for, it's so specific that we need these firms?
The latter, it's very specific matters
Okay.
with our code enforcement and other judgments that we seek to enforce.
Do we expect these costs to go up as the BAA begins rolling more, or is there no personal service or process service requirements in the BAA?
Yeah, I think, that's a different process. That the initial ticketing, of course, is covered through that new process. I'd have to check back, if people refuse to pay those amounts, my expectation is we'd still have to seek judgments against them. So it would fall into this process ultimately.
We're all set for the
Thank you.
3. Thank you.
Councilor Green?
Thank you, Councilor Bay. I have items 30 through 67, so get a comfy seat. Item 30 is the DPW sweeping program, which will be subject to a public hearing on June 17th. Item 31.
Good afternoon, councilors. Mary Robison, city engineer. SU has requested to install some crosswalks with this striping, ADA ramps, the flashing beacons and signage at the intersection of Van Buren and Henry Street. So they have agreed to install them for us, and then upon completion and acceptance by the city, we would take over ownership and maintenance. So the construction is no cost to the city.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 32.
Good afternoon, councilors. Rebecca Klosner from City Planning, and I'll speak on behalf of DPW for item 32. This is a request to standardize our purchase of 12-foot decorative light poles that we use in areas throughout the city when we need to replace city-owned decorative light poles that have deteriorated. We've done this in years past. This allows us to purchase the same model and type so that it matches what we've done before, and it also reduces the number of types of poles we have to keep in inventory. We would still competitively bid this purchase.
And what's our current inventory of these?
I'll have to check back and see how many we have on hand at this point.
I'll be curious, how long would this purchase hold us over? I'm just curious, like, does this cover a year, 125K, or
Yes.
it's a year's worth of,
Yes.
of poles?
Yeah.
And when you said you competitively bid, wouldn't that throw off them matching? I mean, is it a fairly standard thing across different companies? I mean, I imagine that.
There's one company that manufactures this style of pole, but we can buy from different distributors. So we still competitively bid to see which distributor can give us the best price.
Okay.
So we don't yet know the price because we're going to bid it and then we find out the price. We just know we
Correct.
have 125,000. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 33.
Good afternoon, councilors. Lori Iacco, DPW Fiscal Officer. I have 33 through 52. They're all waiver of competitive bids for specific items or repairs that we need for our vehicles. If you want to go each one.
Yeah, if you could just give that short
Okay.
description of why we're waiving.
33 is for Sun King. We use them to pick up the TVs that we pick up along the streets or in properties. They drop off 10 boxes and pallets. Once they're filled, they come and get them and drop off 10 new ones. Originally, we had 3 quotes from 3 different vendors. They were the only ones that could handle the quantity that we got.
When, I don't know if this is a question for you or for the commissioner or whoever, but so Sun King takes the electronics, like the TVs and stuff, but we don't really collect the TVs, right? Which is part of
We have to pick them up.
We eventually pick them up. Like how can we make it easier for people to drop them off?
We did one drop off a few years ago, and I don't know if we're doing any of those again.
I know how to see.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Robinson, DPW. That doesn't work, Counselor. Dropping it off is a safety risk that we just don't want to add to our liability for DPW.
Well, it just seems like the liability right now is sitting on the curb somewhere in the city. There's just so much dumping of the TVs. It seems like if we can make it, I understand you have to pay to dispose of the TVs and that is a challenge, but it seems like the alternative to making it easier for residents to drop it off is to let it be dumped all over the city illegally and sit there longer.
Well, they do call us for a special pickup. That's what we urge them to call 448 City so we can come pick it up.
So you're able to get a big TV picked up with a special
Yeah,
pickup?
special pickup. Yeah. There you are. We're,
You know, as chair of the board of Okra, we have electronic things that are free to the public, and we do several of them a year, and we partner with legislators who fund those so that people can drop off their TVs for free. So Okra does have a program, and city residents do take advantage of it, where you can go to the state fair, that was the last one we held, and just bring all your electronics, they'll take them from you, and make, Okra organizes to make sure they're recycled properly. So we do have programs, but they're drop-offs done by Okra, not by DPW.
But for instance, would it be possible for the city just to broker a deal with Okra or like Sun King, which does the partners with the state senators and stuff when they do it, just to say, hey, we're going to collect over the course of the year. And we know you collect 2 days a year, but can we have a pile and then can you give us 500 the day that you do it and we bring them to you? It just seems like we can make it. There's just a lot of TVs and stuff.
I understand. I mean, and I got your email,
Yeah.
and like I said, I urge you to come down so you can see our process. But it's it's tough to know where we are if we just out there just picking up everything and just free fall. So having them come down and do that, we don't, I mean, it's not beneficial for DPW to do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Item 34.
34 is for a waiver for repair services and parts for our mill and paving machines. This is proprietary. We bought these vehicles at this place, and the warranty would be voided if we went somewhere else to have them fixed.
Okay. 35.
35, same thing, multi-space meters. We bought them from Parkeon. They're proprietary, and the parts that are for these meters can only come from Parkeon. We can't interchange the parts.
Okay. 36 is the same company.
Same
so
thing for single-space meters.
37.
I'm sorry, on 35, how many meters is it? It could be 266,000.
That includes the collection fees, repairs, any new meters, whoosh agreement we have. That's just not for meters. I don't want you to think that's what we're paying for meters.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, is it, with all of these amounts, are these, again, essentially just an account or a pot of money that we have that we can pull from when it's necessary, or is this we expect to pay?
If it's necessary.
Okay. And do we expect with a majority of these to pay that entire amount?
No.
Okay.
But if there's a problem, I need to be able to go to Parkeon or IPS to get the repairs done that we need on the meters.
And I guess to follow up, and maybe this is more of a budget question, you know, I assume, or I know that most of these are annual costs that we routinely come through and
Yes.
approve every year so that we can make sure that all these things are up and running and working. You know, with these accounts that are left over from the year before, if we haven't spent all the money, does it go back into the fund or is it set aside?
It goes back into the fund, but I don't think there's any capital account money left for single space or multi-space meters. This is just operating money, and that would go back in.
Okay.
Okay.
37. 37, hydraulic cylinders and pump repairs. There is no one in the city or local that can do this for us but New Way. So we take our trucks there.
Okay. 38.
38 is for the asphalt plant. If that plant goes down, there are a few vendors that we can go to for parts and repairs. But going out to bid for some of these parts and repairs would just keep the asphalt plant down too long, which would hold up our whole recon program.
Counselor, I just had a conversation with Frank. To your question, Counselor Carney, we're going to be taking a look at all of the wave competitive bids. There are those companies. Some of those companies have very specific products, but we're going to do an analysis of all of them.
No, and I can appreciate that. I guess my concern is just, in years past, I know that when we don't use all of a particular pot of money, it's been questionable about where it is, what we're doing with it, and if, you know, it should just be rolled over into that same account rather than allocating new funds into a whole new account.
Okay.
Or trying to put grants together if we can get
Counselor,
number item approval.
the distinction is if it's cash capital, it doesn't necessarily roll over, but if
Yeah.
it's operating funds, it does.
Yeah.
So if it's a cash capital account, it would not necessarily go away. It would stay there.
On 37, the hydraulic pumps that no one else has the knowledge, no one else in the area has the knowledge. Like, when was the last time it was competitively bid, do we know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Uh, 39 is for Napa for paint. They are specific to what we use for DPW trucks. They're the only place we can get the paint that matches our truck color. Emergency traffic signal equipment and installation. This is for if a street light or a pole goes down, traffic signals, we have to have them fixed immediately. Power line and Syracuse signals usually do these. And I want to say that power line might be on a county contract. Um, 41 is for our Durapatch machines. That also would be, their warranty would be voided if we got the vehicles fixed somewhere else. 42 is for Camillus Landfill. They're local and take the sewer catch basins that we clean out. They take the fill that we get from there.
So are they the only ones that can do this?
The other place I think that they were going to is further away, and we have to screen it. Time and materials for personnel training for the software at the Traffic Control Center. That's specific with TransCore, who set this up, so they would be doing the training.
How many people are trained on this, do you know?
There are 3 people in that department.
What did you say the training was for?
The Traffic Control Center that we have at DPW to do the street lighting, or traffic signals. Alexis is for our cameras for our sewer trucks. They're specific to this camera, and they would be the only ones who would be able to fix that one. Fiber optics. This is for an emergency case. If something happens, we need to get these people on board immediately to get the fiber optics fixed. We do have power line doing the fiber optics as far as the trunk that we're having done this year for the interconnect. Hydraulics for our big trucks. We tried to get JGB or Omni to set up a contract with the city last year, and we couldn't get them to do one, but they're the only ones who can do this for our big trucks. 47, root control service. This is the chemicals we use in our sewers. This company, Duke's Root Control, has the patent on the chemicals that we use. So if we even went to them to get the chemicals, they would charge us more anyways. This is for our safety boots for the city. I spoke with Bob Laporte today. He was going to try and reach out to some other vendors. Right now, Granger, I think, is our only person we're getting the boots from. They have to be specific kind of boots. They have to be the steel toe and come in at a price that we can afford. And right now, we're doing $75 for a pair of boots.
So is it easier to have these 3 companies with a waiver, or just to give it to all of them and have them bid on it?
Well, we had the 3 because there's so many boots that we need. Fire department, water department, the whole city uses them. I don't know if they could keep stock of what we need and the pricing.
Okay.
Heavy brake shoes for large vehicles. Pat's Brake Supply is the only one in the area that can handle our large trucks for the brakes. Traffic signal repairs, this is for emergencies. If a traffic light goes down, plus the fact that these traffic lights have specific parts. We can't interchange the parts to these traffic lights. They have to be specific to where we bought them.
Okay.
Our payloaders, again, are proprietary. We bought these payloaders from Monroe.
Which number?
51.
51, sorry. John Deere parts, the only place we can get John Deere parts is Five Star Equipment. They fix our John Deere payloaders.
Okay. 52.
Traffic Control Center support. This is Bergman Associates. They did all the support for the Traffic Control Center, so we would have to go back with them if we had any problems with the system.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Item 53.
'53 through '55 is related to the TIP project, the Hiawatha Boulevard Sidewalk Improvement Project. We're requesting an additional $40,000 for detailed design and authorizing the construction and construction inspection phase, which both of those together is not to exceed $2.152 million for a total project cost of $2.472 million. And this project, we're going to complete design this summer and go out to bid and be in construction next year.
Can you just remind me the distance of Hiawatha, of where the location is?
Yes, we're going to be milling and paving Hiawatha from Van Rensselaer up to the Solar Street intersection and widening the sidewalk on the side opposite of Destiny.
Okay.
That's for the Creek Walk project.
Okay. 56 through 58.
That's the downtown State Street and Salina Street mill and pave project. We're asking, another TIP project, we're asking to add the construction and construction inspection phase for cost not to exceed $9.5 million. And this is paving Salina Street from State Street to MLK Boulevard and State Street from James Street to MLK Boulevard. Construction will be in probably 2 construction seasons because it's a huge project, so 2020 and 2021.
So, I guess my question with all of it, are these going to be affected by whatever we do with 81? Because I know they're sort of around it.
We've been working very closely with New York State DOT, and they are in full support of
So
this
I
being
just want to make
done.
sure that we're not like
Yep.
throwing one away, because I know some of the options were
No.
included tearing down bridges that we spent, millions of dollars on. I just want to make sure we're
No,
not throwing away
I
more
mean, they
state
want
money.
this done so that the roads are in good shape for the detour during construction. Because there's going to be a lot more north-south traffic, obviously.
Can you repeat the Salina Street one?
Salina Street is from State Street down to MLK, so you know where State and Salina come together on the north.
State and, from the north.
On the north,
Down to
yeah.
MLK. Okay, I was
And
about
then
to
all
say,
the way
yeah.
down to MLK Boulevard.
Okay.
Okay. 59.
59 through 61 is another mill and pave project with TIP funding. This is 100% funded. And this is miscellaneous streets mill and pave. This is adding the detailed design phase for not to exceed cost of $366,000. And this one includes Clinton Street from Genesee to Jefferson, East Jefferson from Clinton to Montgomery, South Warren from Erie to Salina, and Montgomery from Erie to Adams.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. 62.
Before we get really far from all the DPW ones, just how, it's hard to tell from our perspective, we get these like waivers of competitive bidding. And it's like 65,000 for brakes, 80,000 for John Deere payloaders. And it's kind of like there's no, I'm not sure the threshold at which point I should really become concerned about waiving competitive bid, like a dollar amount, or like if you combine them, they're all kind of like parts oriented, and I can't see, we can't see what has gone on to get to the point, like how many.
Like how much it's grown over the years.
So
just like, I don't know, I feel like saying, well, this is the only person who could fix our John Deere payloaders. Like, I think my uncle might be able to fix the John Deere payloader. You know, like John Deere, really, there's only one person that, I don't know, I'm just saying, but that's the way it feels coming up this. It's just like waivers of competitive bid. I know it's the end of the year, so it comes up, but.
So that was why I came up earlier, and it might have been misplaced when I came up, to your point, taking a look comprehensively of all these waived companies, to take a look at how we're coming to that conclusion. If we installed a component, typically that part is also made by that company, but it may not be. So we need to analyze all of those companies, rationalizing where we need to do that, and then taking a look at where there may be either competitive companies or competitive price, and whether what we're paying for, even if we waive it, is within competitive parameters.
Right, Frank, right?
Right.
yeah.
So is that something that like an internal DPW person looks at? Is it something that like like who is it that comes in and asks the questions and gathers the data to?
Obviously, DPW has to weigh in significantly on this, but to the Deputy Mayor's point, Councilor, I think what we thought was the most straightforward way to do this was go with the traditional waivers and the traditional vendors for each of these, and then go back and do a comprehensive review, as the Deputy Mayor mentioned, and if need be, come to you for amendments. But we recognize the fact that these rollovers of non-competitive bids is just probably needs to be looked at more closely.
Also, all waivers and competitive bid go through the purchasing and budget and management office. That's why the letters are written by them. So they analyze whatever department requests and determines whether it's a good decision or not. Currently, that's how it's done.
Agreed.
Okay. I'm not saying they're all bad decisions. I'm just saying it's hard to tell what is.
Yeah, we don't know if any of them are bad decisions. That's a good. I think your point's well taken. So the administration wants to undertake a full review, and if we need to amend any, we'll come back and ask for those amendments.
All right.
Yep. And that was my point in reading through all of them. I think, because to your point, Councilor Rudd, as well as Deputy Mayor, I think a lot of them are just habit, and just they might be for very good reason, but just making sure that we're taking a fresh set of eyes on them is important. So, okay. 62.
Good afternoon, Beth Smith from the Water Department. And I have to say, over the years, we have reduced the number of waivers we have requested. We do look at each waiver with great detail each year. So we have reduced it to 6 items this year. And item number 62 does allow for competition between 3 companies for our fire hydrants. Otherwise, we may have 15 companies bidding on fire hydrants. We need to restrict the amount for spare parts inventory, repair, expertise. So we're requesting permission to restrict competition, or restrict bidding to 3 companies. Sorry. Item 63 is, as it says, we have 12 different types of valves. These valves can range from 2-inch up to 36-inch. They are very difficult to work in the ground, so we do have a company that does specialize in this service, and a lot of municipalities do use this company, Ross Valve, located in Troy, New York. They are very familiar with the Water Department, City of Syracuse. And item number 64, I believe, is these are our large pumping stations, Brighton Pump Station, Comstock, Beach Street. If any of these pumps do fail, that can, I'm sorry, that can limit the amount of water going up to our high service intermediate areas such as SU, Thornton Park, Comstock, pumping station. So when it does fail, we do need emergency service. And let's see, item number 65 is waiving to these specific companies. We do try and obtain quotes when possible, and it's very important, especially with our chlorinators. If a chlorinator is down, that determines how much chlorine is added to the water, and we need it to have an exact amount. So if that fails, we do need emergency service. And 66 is for the required testing of the HABs, the harmful algae blooms. We do this on a weekly basis, and then sometimes on an overnight basis if we do detect any microcystins in the water. And hopefully in future years, there will be more competitive companies, more companies in the area. It is relatively a new testing. And the last one is standardizing to Neptune. They supply our water meters, and the large meters are what I always call the cash registers. They determine how much water is really going in the system, or going through the meter, and that's what we base our billing charges on. So it's critical to have them accurate, and we do have a program to replace those on a regular basis.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilor Bay.
Councilor Carney.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I have
All right, 1
items-
second, real quick. Commissioner.
Just want to clarify 33 for sunking. I know you were talking about TVs. I got more information on that. Special pickup, what I'm talking about is if you see it in an abandoned lot or on someone's curb or whatever. But I think the residents get fined $225 for a TV outside. So
the special pickup is a fine, then we take it.
that we take care of. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that, not saying that we're going to go pick up your TV if you call.
But if we call, do we get one annual
No.
special pickup? No?
No.
All right, well.
You can call another company, which they take it 20 cents a pound, $500 for pickup.
Yeah.
But I think this,
Or you can just
maybe
take it
we
and
need to
dump it in the
revisit
city park.
Best Buy, maybe.
I think maybe we should revisit the fine, because if I call you and I request you to pick it up, I have to pay $225. But some other person may just go dump it at a land bank house
Right.
or go dump it at a
You're
vacant
And
house.
I said it facetiously, but we have a problem in our
Yeah.
parks.
Of course
where
we
people
do.
are dumping tires and TVs.
Yeah, because they're not going to pay $225 when they can just dump it next door.
You're 100%
So I think maybe
correct.
we need to revisit that.
It's like
fine.
tires.
It shouldn't be a fine, like it's a service, but it should be a prepaid service because they're already paying their
We're
taxes.
looking at all of our fines right now to see if that's applicable for everything, just including tires.
Just to maybe give some update, that was more so in response to the massive dumping that happened in the university neighborhood by landlords and students on their exit.
Oh, okay.
That was passed a few years ago because it was excessive in that neighborhood. And so it was really in response to the outcry from people in that neighborhood. They were dumping more than TVs, and DPW was stuck cleaning it up every year. So that's where that came from. But it may not be a bad idea to revisit
Yeah,
the
definitely.
discussion.
Sorry, Julie.
Sorry. Back to you, Councilor Carney.
68 through 77.
Good afternoon, Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 68 is enter into an agreement with Onondaga Earth Corps. This is an annual program that we run to hire city youth to assist with park maintenance in the parks. Item number 69 is to allocate capital improvement funds for pool improvements. We'll use that fund to we'll prioritize the pools that need the work the most.
Do we know how many pools we're going to hope to open this?
We're scheduled to open all of our pools.
Okay.
Item number 70 is to authorize payment. 70 and 71 and 72 are for summer programming, to authorize payment for programs that have already been advertised, just due to the need to advertise them before the fiscal year begins.
Okay.
Item 73 is for our music licensing. And 74 through 77 are our waivers. 74 is for our rink operations in order for us to grind the skates and any equipment that's needed for the rinks. Item 75 is for Wegmans in order for us to purchase, under short notice, the smaller items that we need for community events. Item 76 are for replacement parts that are very specific based on the specific playgrounds and the manufacturers. And item 7 are for plants needed in our greenhouse and all of our planting sites.
Okay. I don't have any questions on those items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Lovejoy Grinnell.
Thank you, Councilor Bay. I have item 78. Is there anyone? We have anyone from the school district, right?
This is from us, so
It's for our
It's
youth
our
advisor.
program.
to pay them. They finished their service for us.
Does anyone have any questions? And we can see where the questions might be addressed to.
Yeah. Do we know how much we spent last year? Did we spend the whole 5,000? Do we know?
No, I don't think so. I can find out, but I don't remember. I don't think we did.
Okay.
Did we spend the whole this is just.
It's an itemized thing. We should pay $2,000 to the teacher and something for lunches and things like that.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no questions at this time, you can let me know if there are questions, but
If they didn't spend the full 5K last year, perhaps we can upgrade the pizza from Wegmans to Peppino's. Something much higher quality pie.
Ooh, Wegman's gonna be mad at you.
Hey, so don't Councilor Allen.
I love Wegmans.
I got a lot of trouble last year for loving Wegmans.
All right, so I have items 79 through 88.
That's funny.
79, is this the, are you here for that, Mr. Driscoll?
This is DPW.
No, I was just, I was gonna ask, is this the new taco place? Okay, and so you're just adding a sign?
It's, we're amending an existing encroachment to allow for the sign to be installed.
Okay.
I
And
almost
was there
got into an
anybody here
accident
from
over there trying to figure out what was in
MBD?
there.
Stephanie, are you doing the rest of the items?
Just open this
This
one.
is usually DPW permission.
Sally? Okay. All right, so 80 is for Key Bank. We don't have anybody here to talk about that?
Normally DPW does these. These aren't coming from MDD.
Right, but still.
Nobody here from DPW I can see.
Okay.
Commissioner right there.
Yeah. Did he leave out?
Right,
Right.
they're not.
I know. So is there anybody here that can speak on 80? No? Okay. 81? Okay, so we'll revisit these on Monday, and 82 as well.
Yep.
All right, and 83.
For the held items from the last week.
How you doing?
Good. This is the sale of a portion of West Court Street to the adjoining owner. The council abandoned this portion of the street recently, and we had it appraised. This is the sale for the appraised value plus the cost of the appraisal.
And do we know what the plans are? Like, what are they going to do with it? Do you know?
I don't know. They have not told us. They have a development plan for the parcel to the south of this parcel. But
That's Court
I couldn't tell you what that is.
Okay. Any questions?
Do you know what they're doing with the property?
No.
Yeah, they don't know yet.
Yeah, I didn't know.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, 84 through 88. So 84, I rode past this morning. Is that vacant?
You would believe it to be vacant.
It is? Okay. All right, and I'm gonna skip down to, I'm gonna hold the 84 until I hear back from the guy. He was supposed to call in, but I don't think he got back to us yet.
The last that we heard from him to our office was that he was no longer interested in maintaining the property.
Okay, because we heard something different, that he was, I guess he didn't want to keep it, but he was trying to like backdoor sell it. So I just wanted to know exactly what was going on.
Okay.
So I'll try to reach out again today.
Okay.
This was the guy who was trying to quit claim deed.
Yeah. So more than like, this one may be ready on Monday, but I'll check with you, check back.
Okay.
All right, 85, I'm gonna hold this one still. And 86 through 87, these are all in very close proximity of each other, is 86 and 87.
Mhm.
And the land bank also has a few other properties on Fade Street already. And then Forest isn't too far from that, and there's a few that are near this address on Forest. So I'm gonna wait until Monday because I want to talk to Carrie over at Home Headquarters and see if this is, see if these are two streets that they can possibly purchase multiple properties and then put them back on the tax rolls, instead of just, if we give them to the land bank now, then they'll just sit there for a
Okay,
while.
you're looking for some kind of block plan?
Yeah, so I'll talk to him over the next few days, and then I'll let you know.
Okay.
And the same thing for 88, so I'll hold them for now. I'm all set.
Thank you. Councilor Driscoll.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I have items 89 and 90. This is a negative declaration pursuant to the Seeker Act for 89, and 90, the tick and deer management plan. Do any of my councilors have questions? We have Greg Lowe from the administration here to present. Let's say a few words, Greg.
Maybe just a brief explanation on the advisory group.
You bet. We have two representatives of the advisory group with us here today, Christina Farrar from Cornell Cooperative Extension of Onondaga County and Tom Quinn, who lives in the city. Both have acted as facilitators of the advisory group, which has been working over the past 3 months or so on what you all know is a longstanding public safety and health issue here in the city, the overpopulation of deer and tick populations. The group has developed, after a very extensive public input and research-driven process, a 10-point long-term integrated plan to address this issue. It consists primarily of community education, ongoing public engagement, and beginning in the fall of this year, fall 2019, a cull of the herd. That work, as is indicated, is covered in an extensive plan that has been submitted to the council for review, and these actions, the first involves adoption, or rather authorization to adopt the negative declaration on seeker, and the second is adoption of the plan. Councilor Driscoll hosted a committee meeting on this yesterday.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to make the meeting yesterday, but this is something that I know I've talked about with a lot of people. I think Lyme disease is a real issue. It comes from the ticks, it comes from the deer. It's a safety issue that probably should have been addressed years ago. But with the culling, that's something I've been in support of for a while. I think it's a good thing. Other municipalities have done it, and it's been effective. I know that there were previous conversations early on. I would think I was at a neighborhood meeting where another counselor had suggested that we introduce a natural predator to it, and I know that was mentioned.
It is.
And that's not something we're planning on doing. We're not going to put wolves back into the community, right?
The advisory group did a very thorough job of looking at all of the potential lethal and non-lethal approaches to address this issue, and predators is an option that needed to be reviewed. It was rejected by the advisory group.
And I understand that because there are areas where they have actually introduced,
Not cities, maybe.
Not cities, because they don't know the difference between a deer and my Pomeranian.
Right, exactly. Coyotes
Your
that were
Pomeranian
snatching
probably
dogs
an
off
easier
of
hunt.
leashes a couple years ago. Yeah, didn't want that.
But yeah, any questions for the advisory group who's here? Tom Quinn and Christina have done an outstanding job, and I know a lot of constituents have raised concerns about exploring. We did fully explore all the sterilization and non-lethal methods just for everyone's awareness. We've looked at this from a ton of different angles. Extremely thorough job done by the committee. So the report is there if anyone cares to look. But yeah, we have the committee here if anyone has any additional questions.
No, just thank you for your work.
Appreciate it. Excellent. And Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Councilor Bay. This is a waiver item request from the police department for vehicles. It's for 20 marked vehicles, 15 unmarked, 5 concealed identity vehicles, and 1 cargo van. Total price $1,487,500. Is there somebody from the police department here that wants to speak about this?
Speak about it.
Okay.
Hold it.
No, this can't.
Then have them come buy their car. Come have
No,
them explain their
they'll
cars.
have to be here to speak about it. Yes, there should be somebody here. Is there anybody here from budget or that would like to speak about this? Anybody like to speak about this? Okay. Well, we will bring this back up Monday.
We do have.
All right.
I feel like I can just speak very briefly about it. I'm not sure how many of the questions I can answer for you. My name is Lieutenant David Brown. I was formerly assigned to the garage. I'm now assigned to our training division. But if you have any brief questions regarding the vehicles, I can try to answer something for you, if you'd like.
I think you should at least take back the questions that counselors have so that they have the answers on Monday so this can get voted on.
Yeah.
So, questions?
Yeah, I would just ask, these, the purchases that we're making, are these replacing cars that we are now removing from the fleet, or this, you know, are we trying to replace the cars that we previously lost? I mean,
That is correct. It's a combination of two different factors: vehicles that need to be replaced due to mileage and use, and also vehicles that become irreparably damaged due to crashes. The primary is typically the mileage. After police vehicles are used for a certain length of time, they're used in a fairly rough fashion, and they need to be cycled out. That's typically what the replacement is based on, is replacing vehicles, some of which can be moved to a different use within the department that's a little bit less strenuous on the vehicle. But in a lot of cases, the vehicles are sent out to auction when we're done with them. So typically, the number is based on how many vehicles we think we're going to have to cycle out of our fleet.
My only question is, any idea if any of these are take-home?
That would depend on their actual assignment. The marked vehicles are very rarely assigned as take-home vehicles. The unmarked vehicles tend to be assigned to captains and such within the department, and those will sometimes be assigned as take-home vehicles.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
What's the difference between an unmarked vehicle and a concealed identity vehicle?
Concealed identity vehicles are used for specifically that purpose. They're not necessarily the standard fleet vehicles that we attain. They're meant to blend in for investigative purposes. They are typically assigned to our drug unit so that they can be utilized for their purposes. The concealed identity is obviously to protect the operators both during their shift and even after their shift.
You weren't, you didn't plan on coming up to speak, but thank you. Did a very well job explaining.
I was going to say you did a very good job, Lieutenant.
I was actually here for the tick thing, but you guys are all set with it. So.
But you can come back Monday and do this again. So.
Good job. That's it? Yeah. All right, that concludes our study session. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.